don't make emotional decisions. Because if you look, most of the time when we solve a short-term problem with a long-term solution that has a negative impact, if you look at that scenario, you are most likely emotionally compromised. Why? Emotions create a sense of urgency. They compel you to feel like you need to do something right now. And there are cases in life when that is the case, but more often than not, you don't need to do something right now. You just have to be emotionally conscious enough to know your emotions are overriding your ability to be reasonable and logical. Consumer debt is one right off the bat, right? I don't have the money to pay for this, so I'm going to put it on a credit card and lease my future. It means you're willing to sacrifice years of your life for this very moment. And I'm not saying there aren't moments where that may be worth it, but that isn't behaviorally what we're seeing across the board. It's like consumer goods. It's things that aren't going to mean much to you weeks down the road. It's one thing if you had a goal of going on a vacation with your family and there's a story and a whole thing to it. I'm not saying don't create experiences with people you love, but when we go into debt for things that we ultimately we're going to forget about, and we're still paying that debt, we are mortgaging our future for something that doesn't have a lot of value beyond the next couple of moments. So consumer debt is a big one. Consumer debt is I'm mortgaging my future, the long term, for short-term gain, something I want now. I think consumer debt can be useful, and certainly in an emergency situation, that's one thing, but just as I don't have the ability for impulse control and I don't have the ability to save to buy these things, that's where we get into a problem. And consumerism is rampant in our society. So that's one. Another easy one, short-term problem, I need to get home, right? Oh, but I'm drunk. Okay, well, I could take Uber. Oh, but that's $50. I'll just drive, it'll be all right. So now I'm solving a short-term problem. I need to get home now at the risk of the long-term, meaning, best case scenario, you get home safely, and that's not necessarily the best case scenario because you may have learned it's okay to do this, which is only going to amplify the problem. Worst case scenario, you kill yourself or somebody else, and in between there, you go to jail or you get a DUI. There are many reasons why that's a poor decision. Short-term problem, I need to get home. Long-term risk, this could go bad a lot of different ways and have an impact for the rest of my life. Right? Being associated with the wrong people or not being able to say no. As an employer, we have people come in all the time who are genuinely good people that got stuck in the wrong situation, and now they have a criminal record, which makes them harder for me to employ. Because some of my clients, although I don't have a hard, fast policy about your past, because in my world, you are who you are in front of me. I don't really care where you came from that makes you who you are. It's the person in front of me. So if you've learned from your past, I don't really care what's in your past. But a lot of my clients care. And if we're working on campaigns for particular clients, I don't always have the final call on who gets to work with me. And then I talk to them and I'm like, you were the wrong place at the wrong time because you were hanging out with the wrong people. Right? They're genuinely good people. They just made a short-term decision that had a long-term implication. Or how about a one-night stand, right? Hooking up with somebody and now you're having a child. Short-term, what was the short-term pleasure? I want to get off, I want to connect, I want to have sex, whatever that story is. Long-term implication, I might be tied to somebody for the rest of my life that I didn't consciously want to be. And I don't mean the child. I think children are a blessing. It's the partner in that. And if you've ever had to co-parent, or if you do co-parent with somebody who is very hard to deal with, it's like, that's your life's work now. So a lot of good things can come from that. To be clear, very often, our best lessons come from our hardest experiences. And I think specifically for men, the masculine seems to learn a lot through suffering, for better or for worse. However, that isn't me advocating that you should go look for suffering. Life has enough of it in it. To make it harder on yourself, I don't think is the path. So those are examples. Consumer spending is one. Drinking and driving is another one. Hooking up with the wrong people is another. I mean, I could go on and on and on. There's lots of different examples where we sacrifice the big picture for something short term. So with that, we tend to make those decisions when we're emotional, right? There's an emotional condition to it. So part of my backup to that belief or that principle, don't make long-term decisions based on short-term problems. The other part that goes with that is don't make emotional decisions. Because if you look, most of the time when we solve a short-term problem with a long-term solution that has a negative impact, if you look at that scenario, you are most likely emotionally compromised. Why? Emotions create a sense of urgency. They compel you to feel like you need to do something right now. And there are cases in life when that is the case, but more often than not, you don't need to do something right now. You just have to be emotionally conscious enough to know your emotions are overriding your ability to be reasonable and logical. And backtest what I'm saying. Don't believe it. How many times have we said something we wish we take back that we were coming from an emotional place? How many times have we made a decision that hurt ourselves and others that was coming from an emotional place? and we wish we could take it back. So simply recognizing I am emotional right now can slow down and go, okay, I need to slow down my decision making until I calm down. And by the way, I'm saying emotion. I'm not necessarily saying negative or positive. You can make poor decisions in a heightened positive state, right? You're really excited. You just won the championship. I've seen this happen with NFL, or watch championships and see how many people get DUIs or drunk or get into some stupid situation. Like, how did this happen? The height of your life. Well, part of it is because in those highlight professional moments, sometimes you think you're untouchable, or the emotion gets to you. You feel like you can do no wrong or nothing could possibly go wrong, and you end up ruining your life. Same thing with failure. So when I say emotion, I don't necessarily mean negative emotion. It literally could be either emotion. You're just in a compromised place. Slow down your decision making when you recognize you're emotionally compromised.